The first time Emily noticed it, she almost convinced herself it was nothing. It was a quiet Sunday evening in their Seattle home. Rain tapped softly against the windows, and the smell of garlic and tomatoes filled the kitchen. Daniel had called an hour earlier to say he would be late again. A client meeting had run over. Emily had heard the apology in his voice, but she had also heard the distance. She told him it was fine. It always was. So dinner became just her and Ryan. Ryan Carter had grown taller than his father. At 22, he carried himself with quiet confidence, but there was still something thoughtful and reserved about him. When Emily first met him years ago, he had been 17 and guarded. He had lost his mother when he was young, and grief had shaped him in ways most people never saw. Back then, he barely looked at Emily. She had been the young woman marrying. His father, stepping into a space that once belonged to someone else. Emily had never tried to replace anyone. She simply tried to be kind. Over time, walls lowered. They found common ground in movies and late-night snacks. She helped him edit college essays. He helped her fix her laptop. Their conversation slowly shifted from polite to comfortable. It felt natural, safe. That night at the dinner table, Ryan was telling a story about a presentation he had given at his tech internship. Emily laughed at the way he described his nervous coworker knocking over a glass of water. She lifted her fork, still smiling, and that was when she saw it. He wasn't laughing anymore. He was looking at her, not casually, not distracted. His eyes were steady, soft, almost searching. For a second, the air between them changed. Was subtle, but real. Emily felt her heartbeat rise for no clear reason. She blinked and looked down at her plate. Ryan looked away quickly, clearing his throat. "I should probably get some air," he muttered, standing too fast. The chair scraped loudly against the floor. Emily stayed seated long after the front door closed behind him. Her smile had faded. A strange warmth lingered under her skin. Mixed with confusion, it was nothing, she told herself. It was just tired. She was imagining things. But when Ryan came back inside 15 minutes later, he avoided her eyes completely, and that made it harder to ignore. The next few days felt off balance. Ryan left early for work, came home late. Conversations were short and careful. Emily tried to act normal, but she noticed everything: the way he paused before entering a room, if she was already there, the way his voice changed slightly when he said her name. She told herself she was reading too much into small details. Still, something had shifted. One afternoon, Emily stood in front of the bathroom mirror, adjusting her hair before going out to meet a friend. She caught herself wondering if it looked good. She froze. Why did it matter? She shook the thought away, annoyed with herself. That evening, she came home to find Ryan sitting at the kitchen island with his laptop open. He glanced up when she walked in. "You changed your hair," he said quietly. She touched it without thinking, just trimmed it. "It looks nice." His tone wasn't casual, it wasn't teasing, it was sincere. "Thank you," she replied, her voice softer than she intended. He held her gaze for a second, too long again. And there it was, that feeling. A silent question neither of them spoke. Daniel came home late that night, tired and distracted. He kissed her forehead and went straight to his office to finish emails. Emily stood alone in the hallway for a moment, listening to the sound of typing behind a closed door. She didn't feel angry, just unseen. Days turned into a quiet pattern. Daniel's work demanded more of him. Emily filled her time with part-time graphic design projects and long walks through their neighborhood. Ryan, meanwhile, seemed more present than ever. He asked her how her day had been. He noticed when she skipped lunch. He remembered small details about her friends' names. "You seem tired lately," he said one evening as she reached for a glass of water. "Just a long week," she replied. "You deserve more than long weeks," he said. The words hung in the air. She met his eyes again. There was no mistaking it now. This wasn't imagination. It wasn't just kindness. It was something deeper, something fragile and dangerous. A few nights later, a heavy storm rolled through the city. Wind shook the windows and thunder echoed through the house. Daniel had flown to Chicago that morning for a 2-day business trip. Emily had insisted she was fine staying home. Around 9 o'clock, the lights flickered. Then everything went dark. Emily sighed and searched for candles in the kitchen drawer. She lit a few and placed them on the coffee table in the living room. The house felt smaller in the dim light, quieter except for the steady rhythm of rain. Ryan came downstairs wearing a gray hoodie, his hair slightly damp from a quick shower. "Power's out everywhere," he said, checking his phone. "Neighborhood group chat is going crazy." Emily smiled faintly. "At least we have candles." They sat on opposite ends of the couch at first, the flickering light casting soft shadows across the walls. Without the hum of electricity, the house felt intimate, isolated from the world. For a while, they talked about random things: college classes, a new movie coming out, the storm itself. Then the conversation slowed. Ryan leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. The candlelight reflected in his eyes. "Kayesk?" "You something," he said. "Sure. Do you ever feel like you chose the safe option instead of the right one?" The question caught her off guard. "What do you mean?" "I don't know," he said slowly. "Like, sometimes people choose what looks stable, what makes sense, but not what makes them feel alive." Her chest tightened. She thought of Daniel's steady job, their quiet dinners, the way her marriage had become more about routine than connection. "Life isn't always about feeling alive," she said carefully. "But shouldn't it be?" Ryan asked. The storm outside grew louder, as if reacting to the tension inside. She looked at him, really looked at him. He wasn't a boy anymore. His features were sharper now, his posture confident. There was emotion in his face that hadn't been there years ago. "I think timing matters," she said softly. "Sometimes people meet at the wrong time," he swallowed. "Or maybe they meet too late," he replied. Silence filled the space between them. Emily felt her pulse in her throat. This was the line, the moment where words could cross into something that couldn't be taken back. She stood abruptly. "I should check the breaker, just in case." As she stepped past him, her hand brushed against his. It was brief, accidental, but neither of them pulled away immediately. The touch sent a sharp awareness through her body. Not inappropriate, not planned, just human. She moved away first. In the darkness of the hallway, her breath felt uneven. She rested her hand against the wall, steadying herself. What was she doing? What was happening? When she returned to the living room, Ryan was standing by the window, staring at the rain. "I don't want to make things complicated," he said, without turning around. "Then don't," she replied quickly. He finally looked at her. "I just see you differently now." There it was. Simple, honest. Her heart pounded. "I'm still your stepmother," she said. "I know," he answered, "but I'm not a kid anymore." The truth in his voice was impossible to ignore. The power came back on suddenly, flooding the room with bright light. The spell of candlelight vanished instantly, replaced by the normal glow of lamps and screens. Reality returned. Emily blinked against the brightness. "We should get some sleep," she said. Ryan nodded. "Yeah." As he walked upstairs, he paused halfway and looked back at her. Not boldly, not recklessly, just with quiet emotion. "Good night." Emily, he had never said her name like that before. She stood alone in the living room long after he disappeared down the hallway. She wasn't naive. She knew what this was. Not love, not yet. But attraction mixed with loneliness could become something powerful if left unchecked. And for the first time since marrying Daniel, Emily felt something she hadn't expected to feel again. Desired. That realization frightened her more than anything. 'Cause if she felt it too, then the storm outside had only just begun. Emily did not sleep that night. The storm had passed, but the house felt unsettled. Every small sound, the refrigerator turning on, The wind brushing the windows made her more aware of the silence between her and Ryan's room upstairs. She lay beside Daniel's empty space in bed and stared at the ceiling. She knew one thing clearly. If she ignored what was happening, it would grow. And if it grew, it would destroy everything. By morning, she had made a decision. When Ryan came. Downstairs, she was already at the kitchen table with 2 cups of coffee. The sunlight made everything look normal again. Calm, ordinary. But she felt anything but calm. "Can we talk?" she asked. Ryan paused, then nodded. He sat across from her. His posture was steady, but his eyes held the same honesty from the night before. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Emily took a slow breath. What happened last night can't happen again. Ryan didn't argue. He didn't pretend to misunderstand. No, he said quietly. His calm answer almost made it harder. I should have stopped the conversation earlier, she continued. I should have changed the subject. I didn't. You didn't do anything wrong, he said quickly. That's not the point, she replied. Feelings don't become right just because they're unspoken. He looked down at his hands. I didn't plan for this, he admitted. It just happened. She understood that more than she wanted to. I care about you, she said carefully, but not in the way you think. Ryan finally met her eyes. You don't feel anything? The question was direct. Brave dot, she hesitated, but only for a second. It doesn't matter what I feel, she answered. Some lines are there for a reason. That was the truth she needed to hold on to. Ryan leaned back, running a hand through his hair. I never wanted to hurt Dad. And you won't, she said firmly. The air between them felt heavy, but honest. There was no anger, no drama. Just 2 people facing something complicated. You're young, she said gently. You're still building your life. Don't tie it to something that would only cause regret. I don't regret feeling something real, he replied. Her heart tightened. Real doesn't always mean right, she said softly. The words landed. He didn't fight them. After a long silence, he nodded once. Hey, that simple agreement meant everything. But Emily knew talking to Ryan was only half the battle. The other half was her marriage. That evening, Daniel returned from Chicago. He looked tired but relieved to be home. He hugged Emily tightly, unaware of how close everything had come to shifting. During dinner, Ryan was polite and quiet. The tension from the morning had changed into respectful distance. Emily noticed it immediately. So did Daniel, though he didn't understand why. Later that night, after Ryan went upstairs, Emily turned off the television and faced her husband. We need to talk, she said. Daniel looked concerned. Is everything okay? She chose her words carefully. This conversation had to be about them, not about Ryan. I feel like we've drifted, she began. We don't talk the way we used to. We don't laugh the same way. I feel alone sometimes. Daniel frowned. I'm working hard for us. I know, she said quickly, and I appreciate that. But I need more than security. I need connection. The room was quiet except for the ticking of the wall clock. I didn't realize you felt that way, he admitted. I thought everything was fine. That's the problem, she said gently. We stopped checking. Daniel leaned back, absorbing her words. For the first time in a long while, he wasn't distracted by his phone or thinking about work. What do you need? He asked. The question surprised her. I need us to show up for each other, she answered. Not just exist in the same house. He reached across the table and took her hand. I don't want to lose you, he said quietly. And in that moment, she saw something she hadn't noticed in months. Effort. Over the next few days, small changes began. Daniel left work earlier twice that week. They had dinner out at a small Italian restaurant near the waterfront. They walked afterward, talking about things they hadn't shared in years' dreams. Worries, plans for the future. It wasn't dramatic, wasn't perfect, but it was real. Ryan kept his distance respectfully. He focused on work and spent more time with friends. The intensity in his eyes softened into something quieter understanding. Maybe even relief. One afternoon, Emily found him packing a box in his room. "What's that?" she asked from the doorway. "I got an offer," he said. "It's a full-time position in Vancouver. It's a big step." Her chest tightened, but she smiled. "That's amazing. I think it's what I need," he continued. "A fresh start." She knew what he meant. Change was necessary. Growth required space. "When would you leave?" she asked. 2 weeks. The words came faster than she expected. That evening, Daniel was thrilled about the news. He talked about opportunities, career growth, new experiences. Emily listened quietly, aware that this decision meant more than just a job. It meant closure. In the final days before Ryan's move, everything felt lighter. The unspoken tension had dissolved into mutual respect. They spoke normally, kindly, but with clear boundaries. On his last night at home, Ryan stood in the kitchen holding a cup of tea. "Thank you," he said suddenly. "For what?" "For stopping me," he replied. She met his eyes. "You stopped yourself," she said. He shook his head slightly. "You reminded me who I want to be." Those words mattered more than he knew. He stepped forward and gave her a brief, careful hug. It was warm but simple. Nothing lingering. Nothing confusing. "I hope you and Dad figure things out," he said. "We're trying," she answered honestly. "That's enough." The next morning, Daniel drove him to the airport. Emily stayed behind, watching from the window as the car pulled away. The house felt quieter than before, but not tense, just calm. That evening, Daniel wrapped his arm around her as they sat on the porch. The sunset painted the sky in soft orange and pink. The air felt cool and steady. "I'm proud of him," Daniel said. "So am I," Emily replied. She leaned her head against her husband's shoulder. The storm that had once threatened her marriage had forced her to confront what was missing, had forced her to speak up, to choose deliberately. Attraction can feel powerful. It can feel like awakening after years of routine. But she had learned something important. Intensity fades, character remains. Weeks passed. Daniel continued making effort. They planned a short trip to the mountains. They laughed more. They listened more. One quiet night, Emily stood alone in the living room, remembering the candlelight during the storm. She didn't feel shame. She didn't feel regret. She felt gratitude because that moment had shown her a truth she couldn't ignore. She didn't want a different life. She wanted to fight for the one she had. Her phone buzzed softly. A message from Ryan made it to Vancouver. "First day tomorrow. Thank you for everything." She smiled and typed back, "Proud of you. Go build your future." She set the phone down and turned off the lights. Some feelings are meant to guide you, not control you. Some moments test your heart, not to break it, but to strengthen it. Emily walked upstairs, knowing she had chosen the harder path. And because of that choice, everything else had a chance to heal.